Live. So good morning, everyone. My name is Jesse, and I am with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. For those joining us for the first time, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. Today is all about adventure with a capital A in the truest sense of the term, so I'm really excited about that, and thank you guys for joining us on a new week. So we've got 4 classes joining us from across North America and Europe today. We've got a UK classroom, which we're really excited about. So I'm going to give them a chance to say hi, and then we'll turn it over to our speaker. So we've got Miss Weaver's grade 6s in Ocean City in New Jersey. Hi, guys. Hi. Hey, we have so many New Jersey classes. I always love having you guys. All right, we've got Miss Heinemann's class still pouring in, grade 6s in Miami, Florida. So let me just see. Let's see.
Can they see us? Yes,
there,
they
no,
can.
just Miss Heinemann. Perfect. We'll come back in a second. We've got Miss Simon's grade 6s in Cornwall in the UK. They don't have video, they don't have audio, but they're there. They can watch us and hear us. So we're so excited to have a UK classroom today, like I said. And last but not least, we've got Miss Maxwell's class joining us in DeWitt in Michigan. Hi, guys. How you doing? Let's see if we got your audio. Hey, DeWitt. How you guys doing? Welcome in. Okay, we'll get your audio working in a little bit. We got some tech difficulties. Makes it exciting, I think. All right. Of course, the reason you guys are all here is for our speakers. We are joined live at an airfield, fittingly enough, by James Ketchell. So he has climbed Everest. He has rode the Atlantic Ocean. He has cycled around the world. And he has just wrapped up recently a gyrocopter expedition around the world. If you are wondering what a gyrocopter is, why someone would do such a thing, or what's going on with James and all these cool adventures, we're going to turn it over to him to find out, because I don't want to steal his thunder. So without further ado, thank you so much for joining us, James, and take it away.
Thank you, Jesse. Good morning, all of you amazing people that are around the world right now. It's amazing to be able to sit here and talk to you. What I'm going to do is just quickly share my screen. That way we can I can show you some pictures and videos. Let me do this. How do I do this? 2 seconds, guys. That's better. We'll put that over there. So I'm going to take you guys on a little bit of a journey today. We are going to start by me letting you know that 10 years ago, I used to race bikes. That's a Kawasaki ZX6 Ninja. It's actually quite a fast bike. I would race most weekends, and I didn't like losing, but it doesn't matter who you are. No one can win all the time. It's completely impossible. And one particular day, I was accelerating hard out the corner. Came out the corner a little bit too quick, and the rear wheel span up, and the back of the bike came round on me and threw me over the top of the handlebars. It's called a high side. But unfortunately, when the human body hits concrete at just over 100 miles an hour, it can be problematic. I remember flying through the air, looking back at the bike, and I had this one thought going through my head. And I thought to myself, oh dear, this is gonna hurt. Next thing I know, I was knocked unconscious, and then I woke up in a gravel trap. A doctor came running over to me. He said, "Are you all right, son?" And I said, my leg, I can't feel my right leg." And he looked down at my leg and he went, "Ooh." Now, guys, trust me, when a doctor does that, it really is never a good sign. He then looked back up into my eyes and he said, "Whatever you do, don't look down." So what do you do when you're told not to do something? You look down. And my right foot was pointing backwards. It had snapped. And I hadn't just snapped my ankle. I'd broken both my legs. I'd broken my lower back, fractured my lower back, broke my arm, broke my hand. And I woke up in hospital. This was quite a big problem. And when I was lying in that hospital bed, I thought to myself, I need to figure out how I'm going to turn something negative into something positive. And ever since I've been a young boy, I've always had a crazy dream to try and row a boat across the Atlantic Ocean, but I never had the guts to do it. I was always worried about what other people thought of me, and I was always waiting for the right time. Well, the right time does not exist. You have to create it. And I got out of hospital. It took 2 years to learn how to walk again. And I decided I was going to row an ocean. Now, I didn't have enough money through sponsorship to buy a brand new boat. So I bought a secondhand boat and I had to rub it all down and refit it. And the picture here that you can see, there's all my food And that boat there is only maybe 20 feet long. It's a very small little boat. And in that boat, I'd have solar panels that charge the batteries, that then run the water maker, so I can turn seawater into drinking water. And I had dehydrated ration packs, and I was self-sufficient in the boat. So it doesn't really look like me, does it, guys? My hair goes blonde and my beard goes bright ginger, but we all know that ginger's cool, right? So that's actually Antigua in the background. I set out from a little island called La Gomera, which is in the Canary Islands, just off the coast of North Africa. And here's some video footage that I shot when I rode across the Atlantic. Hopefully you don't get seasick and vomit up all your breakfast, but we'll find out, eh, guys? So you can see the way the boat is moving up and down. And that's a really good thing. We're being pushed along by the waves, the sea and the waves. The currents, as you come out the Canary Islands, flow down the Canaries. And then you get to a lower latitude, so that means closer to the equator. And then you pick up the North Equatorial Current. And again, the whole mass of ocean is flowing across towards the Caribbean. And then the trade winds start filling in. And that's how you get across. Now, usually it takes about 70 or 80 days. It took me 110 days, 4 hours and 4 minutes. Not that I was counting, guys, to get across. But I had this mindset, and I thought to myself, I'm in this massive ocean, and as long as I do one thing, and that one thing is just to keep going, as long as I don't row in circles, I'm going to get to land at some point. Eventually, I'm going to run out of ocean, right? Now, luckily, I managed to keep going, and I made it into Antigua, into English Harbor, Nelson's Dockyard. This is an incredible place. Now, a lot of people would say to me, what's it like rowing across the Atlantic? But the honest answer is it's absolutely incredible. Every day when the sun comes up, the water just glistens in a different way. It's absolutely beautiful. And the wildlife is like something you'll never, ever forget. Huge, big fin whales would swim right up to the boat. These whales are the size of a bus. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen the film Life of Pi, but flying fish, they really do fly. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. I'd been rowing all through the day. I was particularly tired, and it was a very dark night. The moon wasn't out, and it was very thick cloud. And so my head torch was illuminating the area in front of me. And I pulled the oars in to get some rest that night. And this white object came flying out the water. Bang! Hit me right in the face. I was so tired. My brain wasn't working. I thought I'd just been hit by a golf ball. But then I thought, I'm not going to get hit by a golf ball out here, surely, because there's no one playing golf. And it was not a golf ball. It was a flying fish. It hit me in the face, and it was flapping up and down on the deck. And I thought to myself, what do I do with this thing? Do I try and eat it? Nah, it's small and bony. So I threw it back in so it could hit someone else in the face another day. Now, I used to get out of the boat to clean the bottom of the hull so the boat would pierce through the water that little bit more efficiently. And one day I got out the boat. The water is beautiful, like a warm bath. And it's crystal clear. You look down, it's 3 miles to the bottom. Water goes dark when you look down. It's never that far from land. It's just the wrong way. 3 miles below you. And one day I was cleaning the bottom of the hull, and this little fish, only a tiny little thing, swam right up to me and bit me right on the nipple. I couldn't believe I'd been bitten on the nipple by a fish. It didn't really hurt. It was the shock of being bitten. Now, I didn't know anyone here, guys. This was pretty crazy. And bearing in mind, I've been out here for nearly 4 months. I'm about to take my last stroke of a 3,000 mile row. And watch what happens now as I pull the oar in on my last stroke. So this is it right now. The last stroke of a 3,000 mile row. Did you see the gate? The gate that holds the oar in place snapped. I couldn't believe it. It was crazy. And if you keep watching, guys, something quite funny happens. And no, I don't fall in. I didn't know any of these people. It doesn't really look like me, but I promise you it is. Champagne in the face is really painful, guys, especially when it goes in your face and into your eyes. It really stings. You're much better off drinking it if you're old enough, of course. Now, I could talk to you all day about this, but I don't have the time, and there's many other things I want to talk to you about. But the hardest thing, sorry, the easiest thing I've ever managed to do, okay? So the easiest thing I've ever managed to do was to sit on that seat and pull those oars for nearly 4 months. It was easy. Sure, I was tired and hungry, but it wasn't that difficult. The hardest thing I've ever had to get my head around, okay? The hardest thing I've ever had to get my head around was just believing I could do it. And when I got out there, I thought, why have I put this off for so long? It wasn't as bad as I thought. And I'll tell you something, every one of you young people in these your classrooms right now, you know what? If you wanted to row across the Atlantic, you could get in a boat tomorrow and do it. And if you're not a very good rower, guess what? You got 3,000 miles to learn. You're going to get good, really good, real quick. But when you push yourself outside of your comfort zone, doors of opportunity will just naturally open. And it was during my preparation for the row that I ended up climbing Everest the next year. I never intended to do this. This was an opportunity that just came my way. And remember, guys, there has to be an action to get a reaction. And when you try hard and you do things you have not done before, that is when good things will come your way. So following on to this, I ended up climbing Everest the following year. Let me just, here we go. Doesn't look like me, does it? That's the first beer that I had. So people don't realize that there's a bit of a way to climb Everest. We've got to break it down into camps. So you would arrive at base camp, then go up to camp 1, 2, 3, and 4. But you wouldn't go all the way up to the top in one hit. You'd go up to camp 1, you'd come back down to base camp. Then you'd go up to camp 2, then you come back down to base camp. Then you go up to camp 3, then you come back down to base camp. Then you'd be ready to go to the top. The only way you can stand on top of the world is to go through this series of acclimatization climbs. There is no shortcut to the top of the world. You have to do this. And Everest taught me many, many things. But one of the things it taught me, if it's worth doing, if it's worth having, if it's a great thing, you'll always have to go through some kind of process, some kind of effort to get it. When I was young, I thought I was clever by always taking shortcuts. But a shortcut will only lead you to a place of disappointment, because it's not possible to have anything worth having without putting effort into it. So this is my tent here at base camp. The expedition lasts about 6 weeks. So when you compare that to spending nearly 4 months out in the Atlantic, it's over relatively quickly. This is going up through the Khumbu icefall. You got to cross these huge open crevasses, and we put ladders down. It's not a very good idea to look down, as you can see. Some of the ladders get quite long, like this, guys. This is a video of me going across that. You can see the way the ladder is bouncing up and down like a trampoline, and it's buckling and twisting from side to side. And I've got to be honest, I was quite nervous. But when no one is born a professional, everything takes time to learn. And the first time I went across this, I was pretty nervous. But by the end of the expedition, it was so much fun. It was easy. So this is going up now, the Lhotse face, up towards camp 3. Now we're going to cut across. We're using supplementary oxygen now, guys. So we're now up at camp 4, and we're so high that we're no longer acclimatizing. Our bodies are now slowly dying, but we can just stay up here long enough for about 24 to 48 hours. That's just enough time to get up to the top, to the summit, and make it back down. So we shot this bit of video footage, guys, just below the Hillary Step. That's a 1.5 mile vertical drop. So need to be very careful here with what we're doing. But it's absolutely stunning. And you can see It just looks incredible. And then on the left, there's a very thin ridge line that we're walking on. You can see it's probably the width of your chair, guys. So if you're not very good with heights, this could be a problem, but you'll be okay by this point. And this is, I'm going to show you something very special. In a second, you're going to see the famous Hillary Step. Here it is, guys. 65 years ago, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay hauled themselves to the top of this very, very rock here to become the first people to stand on top of the world and get back down again. So this is what it would look like if we all teleported to the top of the world, guys. We're looking south now out over Nepal. India is in the distance and we can just about make out the curvature of the earth. It's absolutely incredible. But I can tell you one thing very quickly. When you're stood on top of the world, you're not even close to have completed it. You are in fact only halfway. You still need to get back down, and that's harder than going up. So I stayed up here for about 15 minutes to get a few pictures. It doesn't really look like me, does it? I could be anyone. I look like Darth Vader out of Star Wars. But just to prove that's me, the ginger beard comes back and I look very old and tired. And this is when I returned to base camp. Not looking so good, eh, guys? Thankfully, I don't look like that anymore. But when I got back home, I had to go to hospital because I didn't realize that I picked up a lung infection at base camp, and I climbed Everest in the end and descended with pneumonia, which made things very, very difficult for me. Usually takes about 2 days to get from the summit back down to base camp, but it took me 4. It took a little bit longer. And eventually I got home and I decided that I was going to do something a little bit different. My life had changed a little bit at this point. I was giving a lot of talks in schools and I'd found something that I was passionate about. And one thing that I would urge you to do is really think about the things that make you happy and that you really enjoy doing. And I decided that it would be a great idea to cycle around the world. So I got myself better. And a year later, I set out to cycle around the world. I routed through northern France, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Czech Republic, Poland, Ukraine, Romania, Bulgaria, Turkey, Iran, Pakistan, into India. I wanted to speak in a school in every country I passed through, and I managed to do that and spoke to over 10,000 young people as I cycled around the world. I was more proud of that than actually cycling around the world. This is the bike that I used. I traveled very, very light, and it took half a year to get around the world. And then from Singapore, I flew to Perth in Western Australia and made my way across the famous Nullarbor Plain. And I can tell you guys, there is a whole lot of nothing in the middle of Australia. But the good news is there's only one road. So you'd have to be a right idiot to get lost. You just follow it, but people do. 6 weeks later, I arrived in Brisbane, and then I flew to San Francisco. I then cycled down to Los Angeles, San Diego, out through California, Arizona, New Mexico, into Texas. You need to eat big when you're cycling around the world. And luckily, that's not a problem when you're in America. Some of the best food in the world is right there. So it was easy for me to eat lots of food. It was great. I then carried on, and about 5 weeks later, I made it back to the UK. I cycled across from California to Miami. Then from Miami, I flew to Lisbon and then cycled back up to London. And it was pretty crazy when I got back. I remember all I ever wanted to do was sort of set out and row across the Atlantic. I had no desire to do anything else. And then here I was. I'd just become the first person to row an ocean, summit Everest, and cycle around the world. And when you put yourself out there and you make an effort, amazing things will really come your way. They really will. And if you treat people in a way that you would like to be treated, you'll be amazed at the things that come back to you. So I'm going to talk through a few more other things, because I haven't just been involved with things that have gone seemingly quite well and successful. I have been rescued in the middle of the Indian Ocean. I'll show you that here. This is my little boat here. I was rowing from Western Australia to Mauritius, and the boat rolled over, and myself and my rowing partner had to be rescued. It was pretty demoralizing and pretty scary being rescued. And when I got back to the UK, I was kind of feeling a little bit sorry for myself. But a lot of good things happened off the back of this. And opportunity has an amazing way of disguising itself, that you'll never ever see it at the time. You'll only ever see it looking back. I then ended up working on another couple of projects after that. I went out to the Amazon jungle, which was incredible. And then I worked on a project to cross the Atlantic Ocean in a special boat, a pedalo, with this guy, Anthony, who is an older guy. Unfortunately, a little bit later on into our trip, Anthony had a few problems and we had to be rescued. So 2 things have not gone my way. And then I ended up trying to row all the way around the coast of Britain. It was a project on my own. And unfortunately, it was the 3rd thing that didn't work out for me. So I have also had a lot of things not go my way. But you only really find out what you're made of when things don't go your way. If you can develop the ability to keep going when you don't feel like doing it and you're demoralized and you're fed up, that ability will take you a very, very long way. After this project, I decided I wanted to do something a little bit different, guys. I've always had a fascination for flying, but I never really believed that I could fly. I always thought flying was for very clever people who have lots of money, and I fell way short on all of those. But I decided I wanted to do something different. I couldn't afford to fly helicopters, and lots of people fly fixed-wing planes. So I wanted to learn how to fly gyroplanes. And I learned how to fly and saved up, and it was great. I then realized that no one had managed to successfully fly one all the way around the world. And to be really honest with you, I didn't know that I could either. But I wanted to have a go. It's much better to have a go at something and it not work out than to always wonder and to always have regret that you didn't try something. That's the worst thing that can ever happen. Never, ever be afraid to try something. If it doesn't work out, you'll learn something from it and you can always go back and have another go. So I managed to get the funding for the aircraft through some sponsors, and I set off last year from Popham Airfield in Hampshire, England, not far from London. And I flew across the channel over to France, down to Germany, to a special air show. And then I made my way up through Poland and into Russia. And that was incredible. Russia was amazing, guys. I flew the whole way across. And a lot of people ask me, how did I fly across the Pacific? Well, between Russia and America, Alaska, is only 48 nautical miles. So it's really not that far. And this is a picture that I took over the famous Bering Straits. It was absolutely incredible. Again, you can see the aircraft cockpit is very, very open, and I'm above the clouds there. It's absolutely amazing. It's quite cold as well, but you wear the right equipment. After that, oh yes, I wanted to, again, speak in a school in every country I visited, because I love meeting new people and making new friends. And this was probably one of the most fun parts of flying around the world. This is a school in Siberia, in Russia. Yeah, it was great, guys. And then I came across into Alaska, Canada, down to the famous Golden Gate Bridge. And I have something very special to show you guys. You'll never, ever see this outside of this room. Although actually this is being streamed on YouTube, so you're going to have to click through this. I didn't realize. But here we go. This is the famous Golden Gate Bridge. We'll move on from that because I forgot this is going on YouTube. Now, this is very, very amazing. I remember flying around New York City. It was just absolutely incredible, guys. And I flew. I'll tell you something really interesting. I've cycled across America twice, and I have a soft spot for America. I like the country. Everyone has been very kind to me. And so I wanted to see more of the country. So I landed in every single state in America, mainland state, 49 of them. The only one I couldn't do was Hawaii because I don't have enough fuel to fly there. But I landed in Alaska and every other mainland state. It was amazing. I'll be playing forward favors for the rest of my life. I really will. And then I needed to get back across the Atlantic Ocean. Now, the way you do that is you fly up into Canada. I flew all the way up to a place called Iqaluit. And then I flew across the Greenland to Nuuk. And then from Greenland, I flew to Iceland. Then from Iceland to the Faroe Islands. Then from the Faroe Islands back down to the UK. And this is when I arrived home last year on the 22nd of September. And it still hasn't sunk in that I've somehow flown around the world, guys. 3 years ago, I did not even have a license to fly. But one thing that makes me pretty happy and one thing that is really important that I want to share with all of you, you may be looking at this and thinking, wow, look at all these crazy adventures. Now, the really exciting thing here is we are no different. If this is something I can do, every single one of you watching this has the ability to do this as well, if you want to. When you go to sleep tonight, when you put your head on the pillow, every one of you have the capability to do anything that you want. The only thing that's between where you are now and where you want to be, what's your dream, is just a little bit of work. That's about it. And it still hasn't sunk in, to be honest. It was pouring with rain, as it rains a lot here in England. And that was my last day. And it was an incredible adventure. And one that I'll remember for a very, very long time. So I know that we don't have so much time today, so I've kind of told a bit of a story and rushed through this quite quickly because I wanted to allow some time for you guys to ask me some questions. Remember, there's nothing that you can't ask me, guys. So I'd like to say thank you ever so much for listening to me. And I'll stop the share now, I think, and then we'll hand it back to Jesse, and then we can do everything, guys.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, James. As you keep doing adventures, we're just going to have to keep packing them on into the same presentation. We'll end up with like a 3-hour talk, which will be fantastic. Do an extended version. No, that was amazing, man. And after, we'll cut out from YouTube at the end, and then we can show that secret video. Cool. But yeah, let's dive in with questions, guys. We've got the 4 classes, 3 of them live, and then the class in the UK can type in questions in the chat bar. So please do that. I'll take as many as I can from you guys. But I'm going to start with Miss Maxwell's class. They want to kick us off. Now, they had mic issues earlier, but let's see if we can get them up. And if we can, we'll be good. If not, they'll type in 2. So Miss Maxwell's group, yeah, come on up if you guys have a question. Let's see if we can get your mic working. So you guys can see me, hear me, but I can't hear you. So try and mess with that. And in the meantime, there's a chat bar on the bottom of your screen, little oval 3 dots, and we can taking questions there. Let me go to Miss Weaver's class. Come on up, guys.
Okay. Did you ever encounter a storm when you were rowing across the Atlantic?
Yes, I encountered many storms when I was rowing across the Atlantic. But I'll tell you something really interesting. If you row across the Atlantic at the right time of year, and rowing from the Canary Islands to Antigua, believe it or not, the right time of year is to go across in the winter. So January, February, December time, and the weather won't get that bad. But where I experienced a very, very serious storm was actually in the Indian Ocean. The waves were as high as a 2 or 3 story building. So they were quite high, and it was quite scary, but the boat is designed to self-right. So you get used to it after a while. Do you fancy rowing across the Atlantic?
Maybe, kind of, sort of. One day. All right, let's go to Miss Heinemann's group. If you guys have a question, come on up. Oh, let me just get your mic. I can do your mic all from here, so we should be good. Let's unmute. Nope. Okay. Everyone's mic's having difficulty. So Miss Heineman's class, just demute your own mic and then you're good. There you go. You're set.
How did you feel after you made all those accomplishments?
How do I feel after I made all those accomplishments? That's a great question. Well, the answer is I'm now busy working on the next project. And the thing is, the more you do, the harder you have to work. So I've done lots of things now. So lots of opportunities come my way. So I now need to spend more time looking at what opportunities I'm doing, what things I'm not doing. And nothing, you have to spend more time assessing things. And I don't think about it too much. The most important thing for me is that I'm achieving what I want to achieve, and hopefully inspire some other people to set out on their own dreams as well. And remember, if these achievements, these things that I've spoken to you about, it's all relative. It will be just as much of an achievement for you guys to pass an exam or make it onto a football team or do something. And you don't have to climb the world's highest mountains and cycle around the world. Whatever it is that's right for you is what you should work hard to.
Yeah, fantastic. I love that that's such a huge part of your presentations every time, James, and we really appreciate it. All right. Dan in Miss Simon's class in Cornwall wanted to ask, how many days did it take to fly around the world, James?
It took 100, I've lost count. I think it took 175 days to fly around the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a similar time to cycle around the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, even with all the stops, as you mentioned, like stopping in every single state, and you stopped more places than you probably needed to.
I stopped loads. I didn't need to make anywhere near as many stops. But it was really important. I didn't want to be just another British lunatic flying around the world. So it was important that I stopped and engaged with people. Otherwise, I felt it was a waste of time. So I wanted to take more time to meet people.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, Miss Maxwell's class. So I'm going to come back to you guys, see if your mic's working. I know you guys are lined up, so let me check. You should be good. Actually, come on up to mute your own mic. Let's see if that works. Yeah, try and say something. No, we're not hearing you guys. So type them in the bottom of your screen. Seriously, chat bar, oval, 3 dots on their Zoom screen. Click that, type in questions like Miss Simon's class, and we'll take your questions there. I really apologize that the mic's not working. Second question, Miss Simon's class, while we're waiting. Archie wanted to ask, did you land in India? And I like this follow-up. If so, what did it smell like? So what's the smells in India? Because it's a very aromatic place.
Yeah, the smells in India are amazing. I did not land there because I didn't fly through India, but I did cycle through India. I spent a lot of time in India and it was magical. It depends where you are. I'll tell you something really interesting. When it rains very heavily, the smell of the earth comes out. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. It'll be very dry, then all of a sudden it rains, and then you can smell the dirt and the earth in the air because the rain sort of brought it out. It's if you have never experienced that, you might not understand what I'm saying. But yeah, there were all sorts of interesting smells. When you walk around a city, some of the smells may not be that good, but in the country, it's very fresh and very nice.
Awesome. And then DeWitt has asked a bunch of questions now. Did you see any sharks in the Atlantic Ocean?
Did I see any sharks? I saw many. I had an oceanic white-tip shark follow me for 3 days, and it was swimming around the boat. I used to give it food so it would come closer so I could take pictures.
Did you give it a name at all, or?
No, I didn't give it a name.
No, okay. Next time you row another ocean. All right, let's go back to Ms. Weaver's class. Come on up, guys.
How does it feel to be the first to do something that no one else has done?
How does it feel to be the first to do something that no one else has done? That's a great question. I don't worry too much about the first to do things. You have to make a decision to do something because you want to do it. And there has to be the right reasons behind doing something. If you're doing something purely because no one else has done it, I don't know, maybe that's not the right reason. Everything that I've wanted to do, I would have I would have gone ahead and done it, even if someone else has done it already. So I don't really think too much about that. I generally just focus on my own thing, and I compete with myself. I don't compete with anyone else. I only compete against myself. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, there's not 4 of you in the gyrocopter all going at once trying to. Very cool. Let's go back to Miss Heinemann's class. We are whipping through these guys. Great questions from all the classes so far. So yeah, let's head and Florida. If you guys have a question, come on up.
What do you think was your motivation like through all these trips to keep you going?
So what was my motivation to keep me going? That's a great question. Well, it was very difficult to make these trips happen. It took a lot of money, a lot of sponsorship, and lots of people said I couldn't do it. Lots of people said I was crazy. And I really wanted to show the people that had believed in me that I was capable of doing what I set out to do. And I was raising money for 2 fantastic charities that look after young children. And those charities were very, very important to me. So you have to have a very strong understanding of why you're doing something. And if you really know why you're doing something and you want to be there, you won't have a problem.
Yeah, excellent. You mentioned sponsors and you mentioned partners in that conversation, and some of the questions we're getting both in the chat bar and on YouTube is, so who were your sponsors? Who made this possible for you?
So when I flew around the world, I was sponsored by DHL, I was sponsored by Kane International, I was sponsored by Barrett Homes, lots of other people. When I climbed Everest again, I was sponsored by DHL. When I rode across the Atlantic, I'll tell you a really funny story real quick. When I rode a boat across the Atlantic Ocean, I was sponsored by Speedo. And for fun, that I can only assume it was for fun, they sent me a pink pair of Speedos, but I never wore them.
We do like that story. Thank you for that. You never mentioned that in any of the other talks. That's great. All right. Question from a group on the chat bar again. Would you do any of your adventures again from DeWitt Middle School?
Would I do any of the adventures again? Yes, I would. Everest would be very difficult for me to do again. It was physically very difficult. But yeah, I'd have a go at anything again. But you must remember, once you have completed something, if you do it again, it will be different. You can't. So quite often or not, you're best off moving forward and trying something new. But yes, I would do them again. Yeah, they were a lot of fun. So and I enjoyed them.
Yeah. You hinted at that you're already planning a next expedition, and so Miss Simmons' class in Cornwall and a group Jolt Primary on YouTube wanted to ask, so what are your new goals? What are you doing next?
I'm working on a massive project in 2022 to sail around the world. Okay. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. I'm taking some people on the boat with me, some people that need a fresh opportunity. So the project's gonna be about helping some other people that need the opportunity to do this.
Fantastic. I take it, is this like a normal sailboat or a very James Ketchell sailboat?
Well, it's gonna be what you call an open 60 race boat, carbon fiber hull. It's gonna be quite a fast boat. So we're not racing, but the project will have a certain feel to it. It's gonna be quite a fast boat. And it's going to be quite a serious challenge, to be honest.
Yeah, the UK class wants to come with you. They're just saying they have volunteers to come sailing. So if you can't sail the boat, yeah.
No, why? It doesn't matter if you can't sail. You can be taught anything if you want it enough.
Fantastic. Oh, this is a question. I love this question from the Michigan class. Wanted to ask where in Michigan you landed, and for that matter, so we've got Michigan, New Jersey, and Florida. If you can remember where you landed in those places, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so I'm looking at a map now. So give me just a couple of seconds. You have to remember there are a lot of places that I landed. So it's goes into a little bit of a blur.
Yeah.
So Michigan.
Cue the Jeopardy theme music.
It's too difficult to know because I landed in so many different places. But if whoever wants to know where I landed in what state, if they send me an email, I promise I will write back and I will tell you exactly what airfield I landed in, because I did visit every state in America. So if you want to know, it's the honest answer. It's all on a spreadsheet, and I have to check the spreadsheet. And I had someone who was amazing back home in the UK who was helping me do all this. So without him, it wouldn't have been possible. So I have to check.
Fantastic. Well, we'll get the classes to do that when we're done. Awesome, James. All right, I'm going to go back to Miss Weaver's class and Miss Heinemann's back to back, and then we'll take a few more written questions, and then we'll all be set. So Miss Weaver, guys, come on up.
Did you have to get permission to cross borders of different countries when you were biking or flying?
When I cycled around the world, did I have to get permission to cross borders? No, I was very lucky. It was okay. It wasn't too difficult. I did have to get a visa for India, but apart from that, it wasn't too difficult.
Wow, very cool. Unexpected, neat. Miss Heinemann's class, come on up, guys.
What did you have in thought when you climbed on top of the mountain?
What did I think? What was going through my head when I climbed to the top of Mount Everest? The honest answer, I was very tired. I was struggling with the lack of oxygen in my brain. So my brain was kind of numb. When I stood on top of the world, I wasn't really excited. It only sunk in that I'd actually managed to complete it when I was back home in the UK. So the honest answer is I was kind of emotionless when I was on the top because I was so tired.
Yeah. Miss Simmons' class, from Georgia in that class, what was your favorite country and why? Might be an impossible question, but.
Yeah, that's a difficult question. My favorite country is tough. I have a soft spot for lots of different countries, and it's the people that make the country. America is right up there at the top. I also have a soft spot for Nepal as well. Russia was amazing. It's too difficult to give one specific country is the honest answer, because all these different countries bring many different things to the table that it's not possible to compare. You can't compare America to other certain countries that are much, much smaller, and it's just the life and everything is very different. So yeah, it's a tough
They're
one.
all great.
They're all great. The world.
This is the thing that we get from so many speakers, is that the world is full of amazing people.
My favorite country is planet Earth.
Yeah, awesome. All right, I love this question as the last question to wrap us up. So from DeWitt Middle School. So obviously, so much of what you do is tied into helping other people, to sharing these adventures, to building people up. So how does it feel to see other people not reach their goals like you did when you got to the top of Mount Everest? Like when you see people that can't quite accomplish things, or you talked about your own failures.
It's frustrating when you see other people who for one reason or not don't end up achieving them. But you then have to, and people do it to me because I've had things not go my way as well. You have to reassure people. You always have to support people and try and put other people first. And as long as, if you see someone who, and this is really important actually, if you see someone that in your day-to-day schooling, your life is struggling, don't watch them and walk away. Help them, support them. This world is about what you do for other people. It's not about what you do yourself and say you've done. It's really important that you look after other people. And when human beings as a whole look after everyone, the world is a magical place.
I don't think we could end any better than that. And I really, really appreciate you joining us again, James. As you'll know, what we do at the end of every session. So boys and girls in all the classrooms, I'm going to demute your microphones in a second. So you guys could join me in saying a huge thank you to James for joining us today. You are all now demuted. Go right ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. You're the best.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. And stick around for a second. I'm going to go off YouTube in a minute. So bye to everyone watching on YouTube. We really